George Russell is reportedly moving to Red Bull, a shocking twist as Max Verstappen edges closer than ever to Mercedes, despite Christian Horner's departure. Stay with me until the end and I'll reveal all the details. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. George Russell finds himself standing at the edge of an emotional and professional cliff, with the ground beneath him beginning to crack. Not because of any failure on his part, not because of a lack of talent, effort, or ambition, but because of forces outside his control that are moving quickly, silently, and with ruthless precision. Despite consistently delivering strong performances, showing unshakable commitment, and proving time and again that he belongs among the sport's elite, his position within Mercedes is becoming alarmingly uncertain. Not because he's underperforming, but because Formula One isn't always about merit. It's about power. It's about timing. It's about the whispers that never make it to the press conference stage, but echo loudly through the corridors of team headquarters. And right now, those whispers are getting louder. People close to the situation are quietly acknowledging a truth that's difficult to ignore. George Russell, a driver who has given everything to cement himself as the future of Mercedes, might not be part of the picture much longer. Behind the scenes, an entirely different game is being played, one that has very little to do with qualifying laps, sector times, or Sunday podiums. This is about leverage, legacy, and long-term dominance. And the central figure pulling gravity in this game isn't Russell. It's Max Verstappen. Conversations that were once dismissed as mere speculation are now becoming increasingly difficult to deny. TOTO WOLFF, the calculating mastermind behind Mercedes' golden era, has been engaging in discussions with Verstappen that insiders are describing as anything but casual. What initially appeared to be a harmless off-season encounter has now been confirmed as a strategic meeting with very real implications. The location, remote, discreet, far from the paddock chaos, wasn't selected by chance. The timing, immediately following Red Bull's internal implosion and the chaotic departure of Christian Horner, adds even more intrigue. Verstappen is reportedly unsettled, his loyalty to Red Bull shaken, and Mercedes is trying to position itself as the next chapter in his legacy. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. The implications for Russell are chilling. The fact that these conversations are even happening suggests something that cuts deep. He's not untouchable. He's not guaranteed. And in Formula One, once there's even the suggestion that your seat isn't safe, that uncertainty spreads like wildfire. It's not just a rumor. It becomes a mindset. It affects how you're treated in meetings, how much input you have on development direction, and how confident you feel walking into a garage that may already be looking past you. In a matter of weeks, Russell's carefully built foundation at Mercedes has gone from solid concrete to fragile glass. One crack, and it all could shatter. This is the brutal part of the sport few fans ever see. The boardroom politics. The late-night strategy calls. The cold calculations where even a loyal, high-performing driver like Russell becomes expendable when the opportunity to sign a generational talent arises. No matter how much you've given, no matter how many weekends you've bled for the badge, if something or someone more valuable becomes available, everything changes. And right now, Verstappen's potential availability is causing shockwaves powerful enough to reshape entire teams. Russell is now in a position where he may be forced to make a career-defining choice: wait and hope Mercedes stays loyal, or start preparing an exit strategy that keeps his ambitions alive elsewhere. But the grid isn't wide open. Top seats are locked in. Teams are investing in youth, long-term contracts, and established duos. The window of opportunity is narrowing by the day. If Mercedes decides to replace him, he could find himself scrambling not just for a competitive car, but for a project that allows him to rebuild, reassert, and reignite the momentum that once had people calling him the heir to Hamilton. Yet beneath the political tension, there's something else growing, something more primal. Fire. Determination. A hunger to prove that no boardroom deal can erase talent. If Russell is pushed, he may come back stronger, more ruthless, more focused than ever. History in Formula One is filled with drivers who were doubted, discarded, and written off, only to return and rewrite the narrative. Russell has the tools, the mindset, and the resilience to do exactly that. What he's missing now is clarity, and time is running out. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. Every time he puts on the helmet now, it's not just about the race, it's about his future. Every lap is a statement. Every overtake is an argument. Every performance is a challenge to those who might already be thinking about a different number in that garage. The spotlight is brighter than ever, but the shadows are closing in. Behind the polite smiles and the team radio chatter, the war for his place in the sport is already underway. And George Russell has no choice but to fight. The situation surrounding Red Bull Racing has taken a dramatic, almost cinematic turn, plunging the team into a state of uncertainty so profound that even its most dominant figure, Max Verstappen, is now quietly preparing for the unthinkable. Buried deep within his current agreement lies a rare and powerful clause, an escape mechanism activated by a specific performance threshold. If the team falls out of genuine championship contention, Verstappen has the legal right to walk away. No penalties, no legal disputes, no corporate drama. It's a clean break coded into the contract of the most influential driver on the grid, and now with Red Bull in absolute disarray, that clause is beginning to glow like a ticking time bomb. It was once a footnote, a theoretical failsafe, but in the current climate, it's rapidly morphing into the most dangerous weapon in Verstappen's arsenal. The heart of the team has been gutted. The exodus of key figures has turned what was once a fortress of dominance into a hollow shell barely holding itself together. Adrian Newey, the architectural genius of multiple title-winning machines, is already halfway out the door. Jonathan Wheatley, the sporting mastermind behind Red Bull's operations, is gone. Christian Horner, the man who stood at the helm through championship glories and turbulent scandals alike, was removed with such abruptness that even long-time insiders were left speechless. What remains is not the Red Bull team that conquered the sport, it's a scattered, leaderless version of its former self. The culture, the unity, the strategic clarity, it has all vanished. And Verstappen, who once saw Red Bull as a career-long home, now finds himself looking around and seeing strangers where allies used to be. Inside the paddock, the whispers have become shouts. Verstappen's trust in the organization has eroded rapidly. The chaos in the corridors has spilled over into every aspect of the operation, from the garage to the boardroom. Decisions feel reactionary, messages are mixed, and the confidence that once radiated from every corner of the team has been replaced by confusion and damage control. Max, used to operating in a tightly controlled, results-driven environment, now walks through an atmosphere thick with tension. Every interaction, every meeting, every silence between team members feels heavier. The championship-winning machine has transformed into a fragile structure barely held together by the fumes of past glory. And while all of this unfolds like a slow-motion collapse, the rest of the grid watches with bated breath, especially Mercedes. There, in the midst of their own reconstruction era, stands George Russell, a driver who has delivered time and again with the kind of precision and mental steel that teams dream of. He's been patient, professional, relentless, and precise. In a post-Hamilton world, he was supposed to be the new foundation, the long-term anchor around which a new dynasty would be built. Statistically, he's done more than enough. Of the handful of victories in front row starts the team has achieved since the ground effect regulations came into force, Russell is responsible for the vast majority. His speed is undeniable. His consistency is elite. His attitude has been nothing short of exemplary. Yet, in the cruel world of Formula One, merit isn't always enough. Because when a name like Max Verstappen hovers on the market, everything changes. No matter how well Russell has performed, no matter how tightly integrated he's become with the team, his position is instantly threatened by the shadow of a driver whose brand, trophy cabinet, and fanbase can tilt the balance of power in any direction. If Verstappen decides to pull the trigger on his exit clause, Mercedes would be foolish not to at least entertain the conversation. The commercial appeal alone would be colossal. The technical input Verstappen brings, combined with his ability to extract performance from even a compromised package, makes him irresistible. And in that scenario, Russell's seat is no longer guaranteed, it becomes a piece in a much larger chess game. Imagine the inner turmoil, being the driver who's done everything right, who's shouldered the burden during a rebuild, who's delivered when the car didn't deserve it, yet finding yourself on the brink of being replaced not because of failure, but because of the gravitational pull of a superstar. Russell's fight might soon extend beyond the racetrack. It won't just be about outpacing his teammate or executing perfect Sundays. It will be about reminding everyone, loudly and relentlessly, that performance still matters more than headlines. But in a sport so often dictated by narrative, sponsorship allure, and political influence, that's a nearly impossible task. As Verstappen weighs his options, knowing full well the destabilization around him has reached unsustainable levels, Mercedes becomes more than just a possibility. It becomes an escape route paved with ambition and renewed purpose. Red Bull, once a fortress of unity and dominance, has become a battlefield of clashing egos and collapsing alliances. Verstappen, no longer surrounded by the architects of his success, might finally be ready to move on. And in doing so, he would set off a chain reaction that could reshape the grid, redefine rivalries, and place Russell in an impossible situation, fighting for the very seat he's already earned, in a game where logic rarely wins. In the world of Formula One, nothing is ever as stable as it appears, and beneath the polished surface of media statements and orchestrated interviews lies a harsh, often brutal reality. George Russell may wear the Mercedes suit, speak the language of loyalty, and carry himself like the team's chosen one, but behind that image is a far more delicate truth, one that's slowly being exposed by the actions of those around him, not their words. Mercedes doesn't just employ Russell, they hold the keys to his entire professional future. Every twist in his career has been engineered, calculated, and approved by the powers within Brackley. And if the whispers are true, that Max Verstappen could become available and that Mercedes might be willing to open the door to the reigning champion, then Russell's carefully built foundation could collapse in a matter of moments. This isn't merely about losing a seat, it's about losing identity, direction, purpose. Mercedes hasn't simply shaped Russell's path, they've owned every step of it. He's been the loyal soldier, the polished speaker, the reliable second-in-command. But Formula One is not a place where loyalty guarantees longevity. The team has already positioned Kimi Antonelli as their future centerpiece, a driver they're not just excited about, they're banking on. And that's not speculation. Antonelli already has a signed deal locking him in for the 2026 season. Meanwhile, George Russell, after years of service, patience, and promise, has nothing locked down beyond the current campaign. That discrepancy isn't accidental. It's strategic. It's deliberate. It's chilling. The silence around Russell's contract situation isn't just a lack of news, it's the absence of faith. It's the quiet signal sent behind closed doors that perhaps the team sees him not as the leader of tomorrow, but as the placeholder of today. And yet, despite the rising uncertainty, despite the headlines growing more intense by the day, Russell remains outwardly composed. In front of cameras, he doesn't flinch. When questioned about the swirling rumors and hypothetical teammate changes, his answer is always graceful, always diplomatic. Every team has two seats. It's normal for teams to think about their future. I've always been ready to partner with whoever the team believes is best. It's the kind of polished statement that earns applause from sponsors and nods from executives. But beneath that layer of composure lies a storm of unanswered questions and unsettling doubts. He's not blind to the situation. He knows exactly what it means when a teenager gets a guaranteed future while he waits in limbo. He understands the weight of Verstappen's name, the pull of his championship pedigree, the way media and teams orbit around him like gravity. Russell is fully aware that if Verstappen expresses serious interest in joining Mercedes, the dynamic shifts instantly. No amount of past performance, no depth of loyalty, no record of consistency will stand in the way. Because when a generational talent like Max becomes available, everything else becomes negotiable. Even careers that seemed untouchable. And yet, Russell continues to perform. He races hard. He answers every media question with class. He stands beside TOTO WOLFF and smiles for the cameras. But that poise hides something much heavier. He's stuck between being the dependable team figure and the expendable option. He's forced to suppress the fear that he might already be a man out of time, that the spotlight he once thought he was stepping into has already been redirected elsewhere. Mercedes doesn't just manage drivers, they build empires. And empires don't hesitate to restructure when opportunity knocks. For years, Russell was seen as the cornerstone of the post-Hamilton era, the polished star waiting in the wings. But now, that narrative is blurring. Antonelli has the buzz. Verstappen has the trophies. Russell, despite everything, is suddenly the question mark. And in Formula One, you never want to be the question mark. Because in this sport, questions get replaced, answers don't. So Russell keeps his head down, but make no mistake, he feels the tension. He knows every race, every qualifying session, every interview now doubles as a silent audition. He's not just fighting for points. He's battling for a future that no longer feels guaranteed. And that kind of pressure, the quiet, invisible, internal kind, is the most brutal pressure of all. As the possibility of Red Bull parting ways with Max Verstappen begins to take shape, something seismic is shifting beneath the surface of Formula One. Just a few months ago, the idea would have sounded absurd, unthinkable even. But now that improbable scenario is starting to gain momentum, and in its wake, one name has begun to dominate every conversation: George Russell. Suddenly, he isn't just a contender. He's the centerpiece, the spark, the potential heir to the most coveted seat in modern motorsport. Red Bull, a team that once seemed untouchable, now finds itself at a crossroads, searching not just for a new driver, but for a new identity, a new heartbeat, and a figure who can unify what's quickly becoming a fragmented, uncertain future. Without Christian Horner's presence anchoring the team's direction, and with internal stability cracking under pressure, Red Bull is being forced to reimagine itself. Their strategy, once meticulously focused on internal development, is now expanding far beyond their traditional talent pool. Laurent Mekies, recently elevated to steer Red Bull's long-term trajectory, is said to be entertaining bold, unexpected options. Names like Arvid Lindblad and Isaac Hadjar have surfaced, young, blisteringly quick prospects from the junior ladder, but for all their potential, questions linger. In an era where margins are razor-thin and the sport is more competitive than ever before, can unproven rookies realistically shoulder the burden of leading a team grappling with public scrutiny, political drama, and looming technical reinvention? That's where George Russell enters with quiet authority and commanding presence. He's young enough to align with the future, yet seasoned enough to bring credibility on day one. He's proven, composed, razor-sharp, and carries a reputation as a driver who doesn't just survive pressure, he thrives in it. From the chaos of midfield battles to the calculated tension of front-row duels, he's shown time and again that he can extract everything from the car, no matter the conditions. He doesn't wait for opportunities, he creates them. With Red Bull preparing to introduce its own power units under the Ford banner in 2026, they don't have time for maybes. They need someone who can lead development, guide feedback, and translate chaos into performance. George offers all of that, and more. But the story doesn't end there. Just beyond the spotlight, another player is preparing a move that could reshape the grid in an entirely different way. Aston Martin, long seen as a sleeping giant, has begun laying the groundwork for a major transformation. Fernando Alonso, ever the gladiator, is rumored to be stepping into a long-term advisory and ambassadorial role. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll remains on a one-year rolling contract, flexible, fragile, and easily restructured should the opportunity arise. That opening, however tentative, is enough to fuel speculation that Aston Martin could be preparing to mount a serious campaign to secure Russell's signature. The connection between Russell and Andy Cowell adds real substance to that idea. During their shared time at Mercedes, the two formed a deep technical relationship grounded in mutual respect and an obsession with performance. Now, with Cowell spearheading Aston Martin's engineering revolution, that familiarity could prove pivotal. Cowell knows what Russell brings: on-track brilliance, off-track insight, relentless determination, and the ability to elevate everyone around him. It's the kind of synergy that can't be manufactured. It has to be earned. And they've already built that bridge. Lawrence Stroll, a man known for his ambition and refusal to settle for mediocrity, is reportedly looking at Russell as the centerpiece of a new era, someone who could redefine Aston Martin's trajectory. The team has the infrastructure. They have the factory. They have the budget. They now have a partnership with Honda for engines, and with whispers of Adrian Newey potentially joining their technical team, the picture begins to crystallize. What they lack is the catalyst, the cornerstone, the driver capable of turning potential into results. In George, they see the embodiment of that future. Not just fast, but intelligent. Not just popular, but respected. Not just a driver, they see a leader. In this high-stakes game of strategic maneuvers and whispered deals, Russell is no longer simply a rising star. He's the most sought-after signature on the paddock. Every move he makes, every word he says, every race he drives is now under microscopic scrutiny. Does he stay loyal to a Mercedes team whose long-term competitiveness is under question? Does he accept the call to rebuild a fractured Red Bull team from the ground up? Or does he become the face of a bold new chapter at Aston Martin, carrying their legacy forward with the might of a factory partnership and the vision of a billionaire owner? The clock is ticking, the tension is mounting, and the chessboard is set. George Russell is now the axis around which everything turns. The decisions made in the coming months won't just shape his destiny. They'll alter the trajectory of multiple teams, redefine power dynamics, and possibly rewrite the balance of Formula One for the next generation. One signature, one choice, and the entire landscape could be turned upside down. George Russell's potential move to Aston Martin is anything but simple. What may seem from the outside like a logical, even inevitable shift for one of Formula One's most composed and consistent drivers is, in reality, a delicate dance of politics, power, and deeply rooted favoritism. The Green Team may appear eager to evolve, to rise above the midfield and challenge for titles, but within its structure lies an uncomfortable truth. Lance Stroll's position is locked in not by merit alone, but by influence, an influence that reaches the very top of the organization. Unseating him wouldn't just be a racing decision, it would demand a political storm behind closed doors, the kind of forceful intervention that shakes the core of a team's foundation. It would take not just internal resistance but pressure from stakeholders, manufacturers, perhaps even external partners who are tired of seeing talent compromised by personal alliances. That obstacle alone would be enough to scare off most suitors, but in this case, there's more. Fernando Alonso, the veteran warrior with contracts inked through the end of 2026, remains firmly planted in one of the team's two seats. His performances continue to defy expectations and age. He is sharp. He is calculating. He is still, without question, dangerous on any given Sunday. And yet, despite holding a solid deal and continuing to deliver strong results, even Alonso, hardly known for selflessness, has admitted privately and publicly that when a driver of Russell's skill becomes available, you don't block the path. He knows better than anyone that Formula One is not governed by nostalgia. It respects only speed, results, and future potential. There's no room for sentiment. No patience for legacy. Only cold, precise decisions that shape who wins and who fades into irrelevance. While Aston Martin continues to evaluate its long-term ambitions and quietly tests the waters for a possible reshuffle, another, more invisible battle is playing out behind the scenes. Red Bull, always cunning, always 2 steps ahead, has quietly entered the conversation. Their interest in Russell isn't just hypothetical, it's strategic. With growing instability inside their own team, and uncertainty swirling around Verstappen's long-term commitment, they see Russell as an ideal insurance policy. A driver who can bring calm to chaos. Someone who knows how to build, how to lead, and how to execute under pressure. He's everything they may soon need. And then there's Mercedes, the team that once promised Russell the world, but now leaves him floating in a sea of ambiguity. There's been no contract renewal. No public reassurance. No emphatic denial of the Verstappen rumors. Just silence. Cold, calculated silence that echoes louder than any press statement ever could. For Russell, that silence cuts deep. He didn't climb into that silver car by accident. He fought for it. He earned it. He waited patiently while others doubted him, while he toiled at the back of the grid in a car that had no business near the points. He sacrificed glory, endured frustration, and never once lost faith. When the call came in 2020 to replace Hamilton at Sakir, he didn't hesitate. He nearly won. He proved in one weekend that he wasn't just ready, he was already there. But fate intervened. A botched pit stop. A cruel twist. And yet, he never complained. He simply smiled, nodded, and kept pushing. He walked into 2022 with expectations on his shoulders and Lewis Hamilton in the garage next door. Many thought he'd be crushed under the pressure. Instead, he rose. He didn't flinch. He went toe-to-toe with one of the greatest to ever do it and held his own with a calm that stunned even his critics. He didn't just survive, he excelled. In a team that built its legacy on unity and trust, Russell embodied both. And yet now, when it's time for that loyalty to be repaid, he's met with distance. With uncertainty. With doors left half open and conversations that never reach conclusions. There's a particular kind of pain in giving everything to something and then being left in the dark. For Russell, it isn't about ego. It's about clarity. Direction. Knowing whether the team he believed in still believes in him. Because while he waits, other doors are opening. Other teams are watching. Other offers are forming. And while Mercedes weighs its options, the risk grows that one of the most valuable assets on the grid could walk away, not out of anger, but out of necessity. What happens next could reshape the entire driver market. Russell isn't just another talent. He's a rare blend of speed, intelligence, and unshakable composure. He's the kind of driver who doesn't come around often. And if Mercedes refuses to see that, if they continue to hesitate, to delay, to sidestep, then someone else will seize the moment. Someone will offer him the stability, the respect, the long-term vision he's earned. Russell's story isn't one of entitlement, it's one of endurance. Of a young man who carried the weight of expectation and never cracked. Of a racer who lost more than he won in his early years, but never let the disappointment change him. He kept going. He kept growing. And now, just when it's time for him to take the next step, the very people who should be lifting him up are looking the other way. The silence isn't just confusing, it's insulting. Formula One has a habit of chewing up talent when it's most inconvenient. But if Mercedes doesn't wake up soon, if they don't acknowledge the asset they have in George Russell, they may soon find themselves watching him win somewhere else, wearing different colors, driving for a different mission, leading a different charge. And when that day comes, it won't be Russell who has regrets. It will be the team that let him slip through their fingers. George Russell is living through one of the most twisted high-pressure dilemmas any Formula One driver could face. He's not just racing against the clock on Sundays, he's racing against the invisible politics, shifting loyalties, and ruthless decisions being made in backrooms he can't control. He knows with painful clarity that even if he starts putting together flawless weekends, nailing pole positions, outclassing Antonelli, dragging Mercedes back into serious contention, his reward might not be security. It might be exile. He might prove himself so competent, so indispensable, that he ends up triggering a clause in Verstappen's contract, opening the door for Max to walk into Mercedes, and leaving George out in the cold. It's the cruelest kind of punishment, get results, and risk destabilizing the whole system. Underperform, and you're discarded like yesterday's news. The outcome? The same. He vanishes. And yet, Russell is not some naive understudy waiting patiently for fate to show him kindness. He's not going to keep smiling politely while TOTO WOLFF stares into the distance, contemplating which future to choose. George understands that silence is a signal, and delays are dangerous. If he doesn't act now, if he doesn't seize control of his own narrative, someone else will write it for him. That means weighing every single option on the table, even the ones that seemed unthinkable a year ago. It means asking hard questions and chasing bold answers. Maybe that answer lies with Aston Martin, a team desperate for a future beyond Fernando Alonso, a squad that needs more than speed, it needs leadership. Maybe Russell could be their blueprint for the next era. Or perhaps the chaos at Red Bull isn't a reason to stay away, but a call to step in. What if George could be the man who walks into the burning building and rebuilds it from the inside out? What if he becomes the driver who doesn't just replace Verstappen, but reinvents the team's identity in the process? It wouldn't be the first time F1's most iconic moments came from bold, unexpected choices. And Russell, battered by years of waiting and wavering, has never looked more like someone ready to roll the dice. And then there's Audi, a name that doesn't yet command respect in F1, but will soon. With endless resources and a clean slate coming in 2026, they're hungry for a statement. Not just a driver, but a symbol. Someone fast, someone sharp, someone with scars and experience and something to prove. George could be that figure. Or maybe Alpine, down but not dead, rises under new management and offers him the autonomy and fresh start he's never truly had. What matters now isn't the size of the name, it's the clarity of the vision. Russell has to stop chasing stability and start building it himself, wherever that may be. The reality is that the sport is spinning toward a revolutionary reset. The 2026 regulations are not a small tweak, they're a sledgehammer to the status quo. Teams are already plotting the next decade, and no one wants to be left behind. If George plays it safe, hoping for loyalty from an organization that's already looking elsewhere, he could miss the last train to long-term relevance. But if he makes the leap, if he dares to walk away from the only home he's known in search of a team that truly believes in him, he might unlock the greatness he's always hinted at but never had the stage to fully unleash. If Mercedes chooses Verstappen over him, they may be gaining short-term star power, but they could be losing the one driver who's actually weathered the storm with them. The one who kept the ship afloat when everything else was falling apart. If they think they can just slot Max in and expect harmony, they're playing a dangerous game. Verstappen brings speed, yes, but also tension, demands, pressure. And George? He brings balance, fight, hunger, and maybe, just maybe, the calm confidence that builds dynasties, not just headlines. So now everything hangs in the balance. George Russell must decide whether to keep gambling on a system that's already put him on the back burner or bet everything on himself. Maybe the smartest move isn't to wait for someone to hand him the keys, but to go out and take the wheel of a new project, a new chapter, a new legacy. And the clock is ticking. So what would you do in his place? Stay loyal to a team that might already be shopping for your replacement? Or make the kind of move that defines careers and rewrites history? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're not done thinking about just how much Russell could shake up the entire grid, hit that video on your screen right now and dive deeper into how he might change the face of Formula One forever.